like to say thank you and welcome you to Wrestlemania!
Deal. So then it's all good. Now it's like, now I gotta call Vince. I'm super nervous, super scared. I remember I was at a Fozzy show. I said, I have this opportunity to do a match with Tokyo.
Well,
Kenny Omega from Winnipeg. From Winnipeg. I want to do it.
I just finished
like,
night 2 of WrestleMania.
You're flying the WWE flag in Japan.
And
dude, that's how it all started. And people bought it.
wow.
It did big business, and the match was. If you go by the star rating.
Hold on. I'm speechless.
Nice.
Let's do a full review, Sky Gang. Let's just do a full review right now of night 1 and night 2. So night 1 kicked it off, excuse me, with a rain delay. Started 35 minutes after it was supposed to start. Bunch of chaos. They did random interviews with the superstars or the wrestlers, and it was all off script. It was just spur of the moment thing. Finally starts. First match is Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre. Good back and forth match. There was a spot where Drew McIntyre did like a swanton over the top rope on Bobby and MVP. Bobby hooked the hurt lock. Drew passed out. Bobby wins, retains his WWE title. Yeah, hopefully, I'm glad Bobby won, to be honest. Hopefully this leads to a Bobby and Brock Lesnar feud. I could be wrong, but I hope so. Great match. Great back and forth match. I thought it was going to be like a Drew Goldberg match, just straight brute. Who's stronger than who, but it was good wrestling. Moving on from that, let's go to the tag team turmoil match, which Tamina and Natalya won. Really didn't care for that match too much. It was a little weak, a whole lot of botches. Kind of trash. You know what I mean? Nothing too special about it. Then we had the Raw tag team match with AJ Styles and Osmos versus The New Day. Of course, Osmos comes out in not ring attire at all, like some jeans and a cutoff shirt with his his chain's still on. AJ, got in, did his thing with The New Day, and then he tagged in Osmos, and Osmos just dominated. Hit like a low-down spine buster and pinned Kofi with his foot, and we got new tag team champions. Not really a big thriller match at all, but big up to AJ for becoming a Grand Slam champion in WWE. That's kind of fire. Next up, we had Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon in a cage match. Started off, Braun came down and got attacked by Elias and his lackey. It was kind of one of those random matches. I really didn't care for that match, but it was just a random thing to do. I just knew that in that match, Shane McMahon was going to do something crazy. You know what I mean? So Shane was climbing out of the cage, and Braun caught him and ripped the cage wall and pulled him back inside. Then it was that one spot where they were both on top of the cage, and Shane McMahon got hip tosser thrown from the top of the cage to the mat, and he did a full front flip, which was a good spot. Match wasn't really all that. It was kind of like a random match of like bullying, and Shane McMahon was the bully. Braun Strowman was the one getting picked on, being called stupid or whatever. It wasn't all that, I guess. It was whatever. Match of the night for night 1 is definitely Cesaro versus Seth Rollins. Perfect match. Cesaro definitely showed out. He's very underrated. There was a couple spots that I loved. The curb stomp into the European uppercut was dope. The airplane spin with no hands was dope. He had Seth on his shoulders just twirling him around while Seth had his hands on his hips. While Cesaro had his hands on his hips. That was dope. Cesaro pulled out the W. Big win for him in Mania. Hopefully this means a mean push for him, because he certainly deserves it. It was definitely match of the night for night one for me. Bad Bunny and Damian Priest versus The Miz and John Morrison. Bad Bunny really did his thing. Yeah, he really did his thing. He was trained well. The Canadian Destroyer was pretty decent on John Morrison. He did better than I expected. Of course, they won against The Miz and John Morrison. Him and Damian Priest. Bad Bunny did a good show. He looked like a legit cruiserweight. Like, if he wasn't a rapper, I would have thought he was a legit wrestler. It looked that good. That was an okay match. Nothing too sassy about it. Just surprised that Bad Bunny actually can do like cruiserweight moves really good. And he sold pretty well with being hit too. What else was it? Am I missing anything? Let me double check. Then we moved to the main event. Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair for the title. That was the main event of night one. Bianca Belair and Bianca tore the house down. Great counters, great reversals, great moves, high flying spots, close counts. Bianca Belair pulled it off and became the new WWE SmackDown Women's Champion, which she well does deserve because she's worked hard. Worked real hard to get to where she is. Not even mad about it. I love it. I'm glad she beat Sasha. It was a great match. Great way to end night one. Very emotional because of how she came up and what she's been through. She worked really hard to get where she's at. So shout out to Bianca Belair. And shout out to Bayley too. Bayley came out and interrupted like all the hosts. Like every legend. It was a nice spot. Interrupted Michael Cole at the table. She did her thing. Bayley was like not in the show, so she made herself in the show. You feel me? It was great. Night two. Boy. Hold on, let me just. So night two Wrestlemania started with The Fiend and Randy Orton. I wasn't more excited about the match. I was just excited of like what would happen after the match. And the entrance was tough for the Fiend because like he popped out of the Jack in the Box box, and he proceeded to like jump off the top of it with a clothesline on Orton. And he came back and restored himself from being burnt to a regular Fiend, which is kind of crazy. But in that match, Fiend was dominating early. Orton got a little offense in, and then Alexa Bliss appeared on top of the box, and she had like black shit coming from her head, from her crown, and she had like black eye mask and shit, eyeshadow. It was like weird. It was like Queen of Darkness type vibe. And she distracted the Fiend, and Randy Orton caught him with an RKO and pinned him. Then after the match, Fiend turns around and looks at Alexa Bliss on top of the box, who still is bleeding black from her head. And they just look at each other. And then the lights go off. And then the lights come back on. And then they disappear. Where does this story go from here? I have no fucking clue, bruh. Nah. Just when I thought I had all the answers, they changed everything. So interested to see where this leads to on Raw. You know what I mean? So then, next match we had the Women's Tag Team Championship match, Nia Jackson, Shayna Baszler versus Natalya and Tamina. That was a surprising good match. They did way better than that turmoil match on night one. At one point, I thought Tamina and Natalya would pull it off, but Nia Jackson, Shayna pulled off the win. Shayna choked out Natalya, and that was a wrap. Still your women tag team titles. Nothing important there. Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn with Logan Paul. What a match that was. Sami Zayn and KO did not come to play. Kevin Owens, two best friends, coming into the business. You know their dream was always fighting each other at Mania, which came true tonight. And I'm going to tell you, it was a hell of a match. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn really showed out tonight. Kevin Owens pulled off the W. Logan Paul came in and switched sides and celebrated with Kevin Owens. And Sami Zayn was hot about that, so he just left. And then, like the whole crowd wanted, like I wanted, Logan Paul got stunned by Kevin Owens. Great. Wonderful. Nobody wanted Logan Paul there anyway. But that match was perfect. It was perfect. Perfect WrestleMania match. That Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. And I know inside they're like little kids at candy stores, because this is the dream of theirs. And it was perfect. Next we had the Intercontinental Championship match with Big E and Apollo Crews on a Nigerian drum match, which is basically called a no-holds-barred match with Nigerian instrumentals around the ring and kendo sticks. It was alright. Wale brought out Big E. It was a good physical match. Big E had a good spot where he speared Apollo damn near halfway up the ramp from the ring. You know, Apollo was on the apron, and you know that spear he does. And he took him halfway up the ramp with it. That shit was kind of crazy. But, who was that guy? I can't think of his name. Babatunde, or whatever his name is. He helped Apollo Crews beat Big E, and Apollo Crews is the new Intercontinental title champion. You know, the big dude from Raw After Dark who wanted to fight Braun, but I don't think it ever happened. So he came and helped Apollo. So I guess that's Apollo's accomplice for his Nigerian gimmick or whatever. And Apollo Crews is the new Intercontinental champion. The match itself wasn't all that good. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't nothing like I could go back and watch. You know what I mean? Sheamus versus Matt Riddle. Before Matt Riddle came up, he had this little backstage segment with Great Khali, and finally RVD shows up, and we get that RVD Matt Riddle vibe. And RVD finds it cool to plug his rolling papers, and I'm like, bro, isn't this a PG show? You selling rolling papers? But it was funny. The bro RVD and Matt Riddle thing interaction was just perfect. I've been waiting on that since I found out RVD was gonna be in the Hall of Fame. But Matt Riddle and Sheamus tore the house down. It was one botch. Sheamus tried to do the Judgment Slam off the top rope. Didn't work out so well. He kind of slipped. But he fixed it up with it wasn't as bad as it sounds. But Matt Riddle and Sheamus really took it to each other. The match ended with the perfect spot. Sheamus, Matt Riddle did a springboard backflip, and as he was turning for a backflip into the ring, he got caught with a brogue kick in midair, and it cleaned his clock. And then Sheamus wins the United States champion. I didn't see that coming. That was a swerve. But I'm kind of glad he did. Sheamus deserves a championship. Why not? It's pretty good. It was pretty good, not gonna lie. Then we had the Raw Women's Championship. Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. Great match. The finish was You know what I mean? Hold on. Give me a second. Yeah, but Rhea Ripley and Asuka, great match. Ending was kind of slow. Rhea hit a finish on Asuka, and we got a new women's champion, Raw Women's Champion, which Rhea Ripley really deserves. Because I feel like last year her moment was taken away. You know what I mean? But I'm glad that she's the women's champion. Hopefully Becky or Ronda Rousey comes back tomorrow, or Charlotte, and we get a good Raw, which will lead Rhea Ripley defending her title against one of them, which would be dope. So basically, we could say both of the women, the last two people in the Royal Rumble, the Women's Royal Rumble, this year, are champions now. How ironic is that, right? Let's get to the main event. Edge versus Daniel Bryan versus Roman Reigns. Okay, first of all, Roman Reigns came out there with Paul Heyman and Uso. Uso got involved so many times it made me fucking sick. Till they carried him out, he was injured. Apparently got DDT'd on the steps by Edge. Couple great spots. Roman Reigns basically folds Daniel Bryan on the table while he's standing on the steps. Edge spears him off the top of the steps. Crazy, right? Crazy, crazy, crazy. There was another spot where Edge hits a concerto on Daniel Bryan and he broke the chair. This is before. So Edge had broke the chair and he put Roman Reigns in a crippler crossface. And he uses the chair bar and puts it in Roman's mouth and pulls back on it. Then Daniel Bryan comes in the ring and hits the yes lock on Roman Reigns as Edge is doing the crippler crossface on Roman Reigns. And the other got like a double submission on Roman, and then they just look at each other and just headbutt each other. It was savage. It was savage. But it was a great match. Definitely that main event, this triple threat match was definitely a match of the whole WrestleMania weekend. The ending though, just when I thought Edge was finally about to claim what's rightfully his, a 9-year journey to become champion again. Just when I think he's about to get it, Roman Reigns does a concerto on Edge out of nowhere. He pulls him on top of Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns pins them both. If it wasn't for Jey Uso, Edge would probably be champion. Because Jey Uso came back. He super kicked Edge. Well, he tried to hit Edge with a chair. Edge speared him. And then Roman Reigns hit Edge with a spear. And he concertoed him. Then he dragged Edge's body, put it on top of Daniel Bryan, and he pinned them both. Roman Reigns is still our SmackDown WWE champion. Or Universal champion, whatever you want to call it. The head of the table is still the head of the table. Did not expect that coming. But hey, I'm not mad, I guess. And that's how WrestleMania ended, with Roman Reigns. He did exactly what he said he was going to do on SmackDown. He came in, he destroyed, and he left. And that was WrestleMania. The event had a lot of ups and downs. I really give the event like a 6.5, a 7 out of 10. Somewhere between there. Because it wasn't as good as it was hyped to be. But hey, whatever. I will say, the best thing about the weekend is Chris Jericho and Stone Cold podcast is perfect. It's perfect. I loved it. 2 hours of pure, genius, flashbacks of the good old days. It was great. Check that out. I'm not going to spoil it for you. It's just good. If you're a wrestling fan, you definitely want to watch it. It's the first time AEW and WWE meet. Because Chris Jericho signed with AEW and he's on WWE TV. It's amazing. The Forbidden Door has been knocked down and it's a great interview. Top of that, Tomorrow is the Raw after Mania, which is always crazy. There's always going to be surprises. There's probably going to be some NXT call-ups. Legend will return. Maybe Brock will return. We don't know what's going to happen, but tune into that. And that's all I got to say. Mania was this year. I mean, a couple of good matches. Seth Rollins versus Cesaro. Roman Reigns triple threat match with Edge and Daniel Bryan for sure. KO and Sami Zayn definitely had a good match. Other than that, nah. I'm sky high. That was the WrestleMania 37 review in full. I will catch y'all on the next video. Tune in to Raw tomorrow to see what kind of surprises we're going to have. I'm going to holler at y'all. Peace.